for today's lesson is found in the Gospel of John, chapter 15. I am the true vine, and my Creator is the vine grower. God removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, God prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. I want you to hear that again. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Creator is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. Will you pray with me? May my words abide in you this day, that you, O God, may be glorified. May they bear much fruit and strengthen your disciples for the days ahead. Amen. Now, I have to tell you, I was very excited because when I was in seminary, I met, there was an author that came to speak, and I bought his version of the Bible that was all in verse. He had way too much time on his hands, and it is somewhere in my library in a box somewhere, and I couldn't find it, so I was very disappointed that, sorry, I couldn't rhyme for you. But our second installment of the Dr. Seuss sermon series introduces more of Dr. Seuss' lovable, silly little characters. For those of you who were here last week, we examined the Cat in the Hat, who came to wreak havoc in a delightfully playful way on the boring day and household of a brother and sister left on their own devices. We had the Cat in the Hat, and did you hear Carmen as we left? Where's the Cat in the Hat? Yeah. And so I bet you can't wait to hear what's in store today, huh? Well, obviously, Shirley doesn't have a Sneetch costume, so, and I don't have the propensity to rhyme. So, well, anyway, here we go. Today we join the Sneetches upon the beaches, and the star-bellied Sneetches with their snoots in the air. They would sniff and they'd snort. We'll have nothing to do with the plain-bellied sort. And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star-bellied children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? No, not at all. You could only play if your bellies had stars, and the plain-bellied children had none upon theirs. When the star-bellied Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, or picnics, or parties, or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain-bellied Sneetches. They left them out cold, in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. That Dr. Seuss really had a handle on silly make-believe, didn't he? I mean, what's a Sneetch really? I've been to a few beaches, and I've never seen one of those Sneetches. Or have I? It'd be easier to dismiss the Sneetches as silly, superficial creatures if we didn't see ourselves so clearly in them. Once again, Dr. Seuss presents us with a funhouse mirror, bent to stretch out the image to absurd proportions, but mirror enough to recognize ourselves. The Sneetches remind us of the absurdity of our divisions. They remind us of the stars for which we long. They remind us of the anxieties with which we wake every day. The anxieties to sit in the pit of our stomachs. The anxieties that keep us awake, that diminish our appetites, that affect our relationships, and cripple us with fear of what we don't have. The Sneetches worried about whether or not they had stars upon theirs. Now, a few of you have stars upon yours, and a few of you don't. I want you to think about how it felt when I walked up to one of you and put a star and not the other? See, they worried about whether or not they had stars upon theirs. And we can look at those silly Sneetches and laugh until we start noticing the stars upon others that we wish we had. We see the Corvette parked in our neighbor's garage. We see the parents whose children are always so well behaved. We see the beautiful people, the rich and famous in their mansions, traveling to exotic places, frolicking on the beach with their perfect-shaped tanned bodies. We see the churches with the talented praise bands and the powerful music, their trendy coffee shops and bookstores, 5 services each Sunday. And I look at the preacher, and I swear I see a green star. And I look down at my own belly, and there's none upon thar. And then I hear Jesus. I am the true vine, and my parent is the vine grower. Abide in me as I abide in you. Now, it's interesting to note that the Sneetches was written in 1961, in the midst of a most tumultuous time in American history, known as the Civil Rights Movement. It was a time when the white Americans were walking around with their snoots in the air, sniffing and snorting and having nothing to do with those other sorts. It was an ugly time in American history. And I'm sure glad we're past all that, aren't you? If you didn't catch that, insert sarcastic irony here. After all those years, the division of those with stars upon theirs and those who had none upon theirs was, I dare say, quite comfortable. The star bellies and the non-star bellies pretty much kept to themselves in their own spaces, cavorting and frolicking with their own kind, until the Sneetches with no stars upon theirs had quite enough. Even though the only thing that separated them was a tiny star. That star was huge to those who had none upon theirs. They wanted and deserved that star. Now, how exactly did they get that star upon theirs in the first place? Was it a birthright? Was it a sign of the covenant? What did it mean? Well, whatever it meant, I want it. So enter Sylvester McMonkey McBean, the fix-it-up chappie, and his very peculiar machine. For a small cost, just $3 each, you can have a star upon yours. That simple, that easy. Then you too can go to their Frankfurter parties. Who wouldn't give their hard-earned $3 to get a star upon theirs? So those plain-bellied Sneetches got their stars upon theirs, and a whole new world opened up. Suddenly they could move from the darkness into the good neighborhoods, could walk among the star-bellied Sneetches with their heads held high. Happy ending, right? But oh no. Even though they couldn't see a difference any longer, still the real star-bellies knew that they were still the superior race. But what good is it to know if no one else knows? What are we going to do? And once again, Sylvester McMonkey McBean to the rescue with his star-off machine. For just $10 little, you can purchase your freedom from the star. Well, of course, they went wild and spent all their time and money getting stars put on and taken off and on and off and on and off and on and off. And by the end of the day, I'm not sure even they could remember if they were a star on or a star off kind of Sneetch. And Sylvester McMonkey McBean rides off into the sunset with a carload of money, looking for the next opportunity upon which to capitalize. And the Sneetches are left dazed, confused, exhausted, broke, and alone on the beach. I am the true vine, and you are the branches. It seems to me that maybe the Sneetches were attaching themselves to the wrong vine. They were convinced that having a star upon theirs was all that mattered. They knew that if they could only have what the others didn't, then they'd be okay. So they gave everything they had to the one who offered them security. He offered them a quick fix, a walk-through machine, and a star upon theirs. Eventually, though, they learned. They learned that the security they sought in the mark on their belly was empty. And so the question remains, will we learn? Can we learn to stop searching for easy answers? Can we learn to let go of our anxiety over what is or isn't on our bellies, in our garages, in our pews, in our homes, in our marriages, or in our bank accounts? Can we learn to stop putting our trust in a false sense of security? Can we? Can I? Can I learn to love God first and let all else come later? Can I learn to seek first the commonwealth of God and then my pension? Can I learn that my God-given rights are not diminished but strengthened when they're shared with all people? Can I learn to let go, to loosen my grip, and let God's grace fill in the gaps? Folks, it's time to strengthen our grip on the true vine and to reach out in true olive branch fashion and grab onto those branches that are dying among us. It's our time to nourish them, to bring new life to them and to us. Now, if you still need a simple wrap-up of today's message, here's a Facebook quote of the day. Our job is to love others without stopping to inquire whether or not they're worthy. Our job is to love others without stopping to inquire whether or not they are worthy. Amen.